What's up, you guys? So before we get started, do us a huge favor, give us a thumbs up, a like, share the video, and subscribe to us, please. Thank you guys. What's up, you guys? Thank you guys for actually following us, subscribing to us. It's already such a blessing. I mean, I know we started this honestly not knowing what we were doing. Nancy's actually going to share her story. She's going to tell you guys pretty much from, I don't even want to say day one, maybe negative days. Yeah, so.
Okay. You know, I've had history of being sick, and the doctors, they just wanted to take care of me since day one to make sure that, you know, me and the baby were safe. So my OB, he immediately referred me to a specialist, a high-risk doctor. It's a long word. He'll write it down here. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we went, and awesome doctor. He was such a good doctor from the beginning. They started measuring my cervix, which is the part where, you know, when you're going into labor, that you say, oh, you're 1 centimeter dilated, 2 centimeters dilated. That's the cervix. So for a pregnant woman, it needs to be long before it shortens, and then it starts dilating when you go into your labor. Mine started off as, when they started measuring it, 1.9, and I was already really low. So my OB, awesome doctor, Dr. Aladawi, he wanted me to get a cerclage. A cerclage is, you know, they go in and stitch up the cervix so that they can hold everything inside it, you know. So, you know, it's not guaranteed that, you know, it'll prevent me from going into labor, but it's something that will help, you know. So that holds your cervix together and the baby inside. You know, every week my cervix wasn't getting better, even though they were doing all these treatments, and there was a time frame where it was like a window where I can only get the surgery. Mm-hmm. Passing that time, I wasn't a candidate, like, for me to be able, I wouldn't be able to get it. So you need to get it as early as, I don't know, 14 weeks?
14 weeks.
Yeah.
I said 14 to 20?
22.
22 weeks.
No, 23 weeks.
Was it 22?
Yeah, because I got it right before.
Yeah.
They rushed and did me an ultrasound. Turns out that my cervix was holding on by a thread. It wasn't even 1 centimeter long. So he then he's like, let's schedule this surgery. So he did it. He did everything right then and there. He got my surgery scheduled for 2 days later. So I saw him August 22nd. My surgery was August 24th, and 2 days later on a Thursday. So he told me, like, you need to be on bed rest. You know, you just had a surgery. You have a really high risk pregnancy. So the day that I did get the surgery, I had no more cervix. If he would have never, you know, even touched me, I would have probably went into labor the next few days. So he literally had to, you know, position me. It's called Trendelenburg, which is like this. So my head, like, all the way back with my legs all the way to the front. That way he can make a cervix, you know, and just try to make something out of nothing, because if my cervix was gone, I was literally about to start.
Yeah, he explained that the reason he did that was to get, like, the fluid or the amniotic fluid and the actual fetus
out of the way.
Like, out of the way towards, like, up, so he could have something to grab.
So he put me on bed rest. So Wednesday night, I was getting ready for bed, and I remember that me and him, we were in bed already. I sat up because I needed to get some pills. You know, I forgot my night pills. As soon as I stood up, I felt like a gush. You know, I thought I peed on myself. I'm like, oh my God. I started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, I peed on myself. You know, because it had happened before. Pregnant girls know this. Like, you sneeze and, you know, sometimes it happens. You know, so I get up and I go to the restroom, and it was like not pee, and it was something really weird. And I showed him. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what this is. You know, it looked like, I don't know, it looked pink. I don't know if it wasn't pee. You know, I'm not gonna get it.
So she called me, and what the hell's going on? So I opened the door to the restroom, and I'm seeing this fluid come out, and I'm like, you know, F no. We gotta go. We gotta go to the hospital right now.
Yeah.
I was so scared. I was like, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah. So we rushed to the hospital, and they immediately did like a swab test to check if what I was leaking was amniotic fluid. So the amniotic fluid is the fluid that's inside the bag, you know. So you know when they say like your water breaks, that's what comes out, the amniotic fluid. So they did a swab test to check if that was what it was, and they said it was negative. So I'm laying in bed.
And that was a relief to us. We're like, oh, it's not amniotic fluid. It was probably just the progesterone or something.
Yeah, that's what we thought, because that had happened once before.
Yeah.
So the nurse is like, hey, it's negative. The doctor's just gonna come to see you to let you know that it was negative, and you know you'll be able to go home. By this time, it was already like, I don't know, like 2 a.m.
Like 2 in the morning.
Yeah. So the doctor comes in, and then before that, the nurse is like, oh, we're just going to do like a routine ultrasound right before you go, just to make sure things are okay. And I'm like, okay. So we thought it was another scare. We had like three, 4 scares before this. So I'm like, oh, thank God it was just another scare, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't leave my side at all throughout the night. And right when he got up, he's like, hey, I need to go use the restroom really fast. And it was like right there, you know? So I'm like, yeah, you can go. So I'm thinking like, we're gonna get ready to go, everything's fine. As the lady's doing the ultrasound, the doctor's talking to me and he's telling me, hey, you know, it's negative, you know, you can go home after this. And then he's like, oh, by the way, how's her fluid levels? And the ultrasound tech, she said 0. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, what? Like, and then he's like, oh, 0. So he takes a look at the screen and then he says, you know what, we were wrong. And at this time I'm by myself, he's not there. So he's like, you know what, we're gonna keep you. Your water, your bags have ruptured and you have no more amniotic fluid. Your baby's in there with no fluid. So I'm like in shock. Like I started crying my eyes out. I was, you know. Oh.
So I was gone probably not even 3 to 5 minutes. I get back to the room and I see her crying. I see the doctor and he's saying things like, your baby has not a lot of chance of making it. Your baby's probably gonna be born and his lungs aren't gonna work. He's not gonna make it alive. And I'm thinking like, why are you telling me this, dude? Like, come on, like, you know, we have no hope from him. He's just telling us the worst.
Yeah, so pretty much, you know, it was the worst nightmare. What we had been trying to prevent the whole time, it's what was happening. So finally, like, they transferred me to a room. I was just like in a waiting room type of thing. So they took me to a room and the morning came. They notified my 2 doctors what was going on. As soon as they told them, both of them came in and, you know, to see me, to check on me. My OB, you know, he was so apologetic. He's like, I'm so sorry, Nancy. I know that this is what we wanted to prevent, but, you know, like, let's not dwell on the past. Let's take care of you right now and your baby. So he brought me so much hope, because the other doctor, I know that's their job, you know, to tell us the worst, to prepare us for the worst. But, you know, he like knocked me off my cloud. Like, it was really scary. And my OB came and he said, you know what we need to do, we need to, you know, look for a hospital that will be able to take care of you. So he started thinking about like, what's the next step? And he said, you know what, this is a really good hospital with a good NICU, but they just pretty much take care of babies after 26 weeks gestational age. And I was at this time 23 weeks. So then my high-risk doctor came. He pretty much said the same thing. So, you know, the day went by and I wasn't going into labor. Even though my water had ruptured, I wasn't contracting, you know. And remember that I had still my surgery, my cerclage, which is the stitches holding on. So yeah, my water had ruptured, but, you know, it was still pretty much holding the baby up. So the good thing that I wasn't bleeding, I wasn't, you know, contracting or anything. So they were trying to get me to stay pregnant for as long as possible, because every day was vital. Like, the more days that passed and I was still pregnant, the bigger the baby grew, the more chances he had of surviving. The doctors had gotten together and they figured that the best thing to do was to transfer me to a hospital, that if we were okay with that. And we're like, yes, like, it doesn't matter where, but, you know, please take care of us, like, help us. So they found this amazing hospital, which is UCI. They immediately started taking care of me. They put me on a lot of medications. They put me on magnesium sulfate, which was to relax my muscles so that I wouldn't start contracting. They also put me on antibiotics because since my bag was ruptured, I was, you know, in risk for a very serious infection.
And you were receiving the steroid shot.
Oh,
so the steroids were actually meant for the baby, not for her, to develop his lungs because he was so tiny. And they wanted to keep her at least 24 hours pregnant after the rupture, so it would take some effect on the baby. We
had a bunch of doctors talking to us, so we had went like 30 hours without sleep. And they were really nice at UCI. They got me a room with 2 beds so that he can, you know, rest 2 days, seen us, and we were exhausted. So he like knocked out, and, you know, he was right next to me. He was so tired. He didn't feel anything that went on through the night, which was my worst nightmare. You know, like, I was on medication. I couldn't even really talk. I was so tired. And I couldn't really move because I had no energy. So I'm laying there. About 10 doctors came in and they were giving me what they said were options. They said, we're gonna have to give you a C-section, but since he's so tiny, we're going to have to do, instead of the regular C-section that goes side to side, they had to do the classic C-section, which is the vertical one that went up and down. And they told me, you know, it's not even a guarantee that your baby's going to make it. Are you sure that you want us to do your C-section? Like, you don't have to. We can just like terminate this pregnancy and, you know, start a new pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy. At this point, I had this like huge knot in my throat. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, you know. I couldn't even talk. Like, the doctor was talking to me and I just had like tears like rolling down my face and I couldn't even talk, you know. So then the little words that I was able to get out was, can you please not talk about it? I'm like, can you please not tell me that? I said, please come back in the morning when my husband's awake. Then again, they were like, are you sure that, you know, you're never going to have a regular pregnancy if you get the classic C-section? And I'm like, you know what, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Like, can you please just do everything for my baby? Like, I don't care what you do to me. You can do whatever you want to me as long as you know that you tried everything for my son. You know, so in the morning, he finally wakes up. And one of the doctors comes in and the doctor's like, oh, you know, something about removing your stitches. So I didn't even say anything, you know, I didn't agree to it or anything. So he's like, he was so confused. He had no idea what had just went on. And he says, what are they talking about? What do you mean removing your stitches? No, like, first of all, you're not going into labor. There's no sign of you having an infection because of the stitches, you know. Why do they want to take them out?
I don't understand why, and I still, up to this day, I wish I could just go and ask them, like, why did you guys want to they say they were not trying to induce the labor, but just removing the cerclage is inducing labor because water's broken and baby's ready to come out. So why take it out? Why induce her? I mean, I still don't understand. But yeah, I told this doctor, I'm like, there's no sign of infection, you know, she's not going into labor. Just no, like, let's not talk about that until we see a sign of infection or she's going into labor. Like, of course, do everything you can, but as of right now, let's stay pregnant as long as possible because the baby could be in the womb with no amniotic fluid. So the baby would have been fine, and it would have actually been so much better if we would have stayed pregnant. But a few hours later, they told her that she was stable. They took her off the magnesium sulfate, and they're like, "Oh, you're fine.
Stable.
Yeah, like you could have something to eat. You're good. Relax."
So then I told him like, "Hey, go home. Like, go freshen up. You're so tired." And he hadn't showered like for 3 days. So he didn't want to leave my side. And I told him like, "Go home. Go to the gym if you want. I know you're stressed out." Finally he did leave. Well, he was out in the gym, and so he called his mom to make sure that everything was okay, and she had said everything's fine, we're talking. Right when she did that, I started getting the what I didn't know were contractions. So my nurse, she happened to be in her break or something, so I'm calling her through the call light and no one's coming. So finally another nurse that was covering for her came in, and I said, what, I think I'm having contractions because I feel my stomach tightening. So she tried to measure me, and she said, "Yes, you are going into labor right now." They took me to the OR to remove my stitches. And then this is where it happened, where his story about Leonidas, and calling him that, this is where it took place. At this point, I'm still wide awake. The anesthesia that they had gave me hadn't taken effect. The whole time that I was in the OR, I had the nurse next to me, calming me down, saying, everything's going to be okay, sweetie. Pray to God, your baby's going to be okay. And, everything that the doctors weren't doing, they were doing for me. So right when they're removing the stitches, I hear the doctor saying, "His leg is sticking out." And as soon as I open my eyes, I hear everyone telling me, "Congratulations, you had a little miracle. Congratulations, your baby's here. Don't worry, your baby's here." And everyone was, I just remember that I didn't even care about the pain. I just felt this relief in my heart knowing that my baby was here, and just by them saying, "Your baby's here, congratulations, your baby's okay," that just brought like so much happiness to my heart. And then they told me, "Your husband's here, your husband's with your baby." So I just felt like, thank you, God. I was just right what I wanted to hear. So there was only a 20% chance that he was going to survive, and that he wasn't going to come out breathing, that he was going to need all the intervention needed, that they were going to have to resuscitate him. So it turns out that my baby, little tiny baby, 10.5 inches, not even a pound, 14 ounces, he came out crying. He came out breathing on his own. He didn't even need anything, so it was a miracle, and they couldn't believe it. They were so amazed. They were saying that, they didn't think that this was possible. Something like a baby so tiny reacting the way that he did. So we're so thankful that, God was with us, and I feel like he's here for a reason, and he has a huge purpose because he's been fighting. And I'll show you the little diapers that, he just grew out of these barely like a few days ago. So he's growing now, but these are the little diapers that he was wearing, super tiny. And now he wears these. They fit him a little big still, but we're so happy that he graduated diapers. So I didn't get to see him. He got to see him, and he was over there. He wouldn't even come see me because he was over there with the baby. But they told me that I couldn't go, and I couldn't go see him since I was on pain medication and I had my IV. So I couldn't go in with the pain medication. So with the IV, everything, I couldn't go in there with that. So then I'm like, that's the reason I can't go in. They're like, "Yeah, you're on your pain medication. You just had surgery." I'm like, "Well, take it off. Like, can you guys just give me like some Motrin or something?" And they did take me off, and they just gave me Motrin, like how they said. And as soon as they told me that, he rolled me over to the NICU, and that's when I first met him, which was 2 days after that. We had a little miracle baby, and he's still fighting. Today, it was a very hard day. From the moment that he was born, they told us that it was going to be a roller coaster ride. We're like, yeah, okay. Like, we didn't get it, but a month later, we know exactly what they were talking about, because some days are so good and we get great news. the next day it's like we never know what it is. Unfortunately today it was a very hard day. He's so tiny, so things like this are expected, but you know, it's hard for us to witness these things because we're not used to it. You know, the nurses and the doctors, they're used to it, but we're not. So they had him intubated from when he was born, and finally they were able to do a CPAP, which is just a little oxygen mask that brings in oxygen to his entire body rather than the tube that goes straight to his lungs and pretty much does the breathing for him. But today we saw him, and usually he's so active, you know, he's always looking around. They have to like swaddle him up and like tighten him up because he always wants to be like pulling things, and you know, he's very active. Everyone says that he's like so feisty, that he has so much energy and such a big personality for being such a little baby. Today he wasn't very active. He was just tired, and usually he's not like this. We have seen him like this before, but that's when he's on the CPAP. Yeah, right now he's on the tube, and he was not active at all. He was very tired, just sleeping.
Yeah, so they pretty much ran some tests. They took you know, everything to the labs. They got the results, and they're pretty sure that it's an infection that he has in the lungs. So they pretty much started him on antibiotics. The good thing is that they know what they're doing. They know how they could help him out. The scary part would have been like, we don't know what it is, you know, we don't know why it's happening, but we know he will be okay. It's just a horrible feeling, and it's a bad roller coaster, right? We know he's gonna be okay. So they have him back on steroids right now, and hopefully it you know, it kicks in pretty soon.
Yeah. And you know, we need all the prayers we can get. We're staying positive for him, even though it's so hard, you know. So we'll appreciate, you know, everybody's well wishes and, you know, the good thoughts and everything. And we really appreciate all the people that check in on us and constantly, you know, messaging us and, you know, telling us that they hope that he's okay. Like, all of that does help, and I feel so good and so loved to, you know, knowing that so many people care for us and are cheering him on. You know, I'm like, he's so tiny, but he has so many cheerleaders already, so many people rooting for him, only if he knew, you know, but we know. So this is why we decided to share the story with you guys, and you know, we want to let it be known. And I know there's a lot of people that might relate to it, and or they probably know someone that has been through this, and you know, the whole thing about this is faith and having hope and just handing it to God and letting God do his job, you know, but us on the side praying and, you know, just asking him, you know, to please take our baby and take care of him. And his little hat, so tiny. So I wanted to share this with you guys, how little he is.
We're gonna be posting a video of his progress. So it's like a 1 month progress. So after this video, check out the other one.
You know, thank you for, you know, sitting here and listening to us, and you know, this shows us that you guys care if you went through the whole video and are listening to us now. So
yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys.